Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and I've been playing a lot of Venthyr since the beginning of Shadowlands Alpha into Beta. I've checked out all the different covenants for rogues, but for me, I found myself gravitating to the Venthyr from the get-go. I wasn't ever really concerned about the damage output and the effectiveness of this covenant. I was actually more drawn to the zone, the theme, the vampire-esque thing they got going on for it, the lore-esque stuff, but also just the thematic approach that Venthyr Covenant has. And also, I believe they got the best transmogs. From day one, I decided that looking at the damage numbers in the early alpha and in the beta, and even right now with so many things shifting and switching and getting buffed and nerfed every single week, it's really difficult to just choose a covenant because it is the most effective by the numbers alone. But quite a lot of you guys actually asked, how does Venthyr feel so far? So a lot of you see me play it and you're wondering if it's actually might be worth consideration going forward into the next expansion. So let's go over some of the baseline stuff for Venthyr. First, the signature ability, Door of Shadows, where you basically teleport through the doorway of shadows to a target location. It's kind of like a blink and a heroically put together, minus that massive leaping travel time, but does have a short cast and it's on a minute cooldown. Rogues are pretty mobile, so you would think that you wouldn't want this extra mobility, but I would say making a class that's already mobile even more mobile is never a bad thing, especially in the way that you travel with this ability. It has a fairly short cooldown and you can modify it in a variety of ways by having it as short as CD, give you maybe a shield which can become a more defensive usage ability, or even allow it some crowd control, which can be amazing in PvP. The flexibility and variety of this ability based on your Soulbinds gives you so many more options to play with. And then we have the Covenant ability for the class itself called Flagellation. The Rogue Flagellation ability has gone through a variety of changes, and there's a good chance it's going to continue going through iterations, but right now, it's an ability with 20 energy cost, 1.5 minute cooldown, where you will lash at the target with anima, and the target is then marked. While the target is marked, any combo points you spend while the mark is active continues to lash at the enemy with shadow damage. So if you're an assassination rogue going for dotting up this guy and dotting up that guy, as long as flagellation has been used on your primary target, you can continue putting dots on as many enemies, the flagellation will still continue. And if you are a sub-rogue and for some reason you have to swap targets, you'll put flagellation on one target, use eviscerates on another, the primary target will still continue getting lashed with flagellation for every combo point that you spend into finishers. These can be for slice and dice, these can be for eviscerates, these can be for between the eyes or any of your dots, it can be for anything that costs combo points, so it has a lot of this flexibility. The target will remain tormented with the debuff for 20 seconds, continuously getting lashed as you spend combo points, and it will continue receiving extra lashes which builds up stacks. When flagellation debuff is about to fall off, you can actually reactivate flagellation to consume all those stacks. For every one of those stacks, it increases your haste by 0.5% per stack up to a maximum of 15% haste for 20 seconds. So what you do is you debuff the enemy, the debuff lasts for 20 seconds, and then you want to reactivate it before those 20 seconds are gone, so you'll have a debuff for 20 seconds, buff for 20 seconds. All on a 1.5 minute cooldown. There are a couple interesting ways that this ability works, particularly in Mythic Plus dungeons. If you use this ability on a target and then that target dies, the Flagellation Haze buff is automatically activated. So in Mythic Pluses, you don't have to worry about reactivating this ability nearly as often, as you can put it up on an enemy that's going to die, very similar to how in Battle for Azeroth, we had the Coral Trinket from the Eternal Palace raid. Put the coral on the primary target, once they die, slap a coral onto the next guy, except this ability has a much longer cooldown than coral does, but the principle is still similar. This ability can be modified with a conduit that increases the damage by 50% and adds extra lashes when you initially use this ability. This conduit can actually scale up to 120% extra damage, so if you can get this conduit at a very high level, you might be able to put up some great numbers on a 1.5 minute CD. This ability is a 1.5 minute CD, which is something that Blizzard has introduced recently. It used to be a far shorter cooldown, those available a lot more often, and the damage on details looks a little bit spread. It looks a little disjointed, like a lot of little parts of this ability are kind of separate forms of damage and are separate buffs and debuffs. So it has been really difficult to kind of figure out just how good this ability is on numbers wise alone, and this is also beta, so this is not finalized numbers by any measure, but it's still has been kind of awkward trying to figure out which is the best way to look at this ability. How should you read it properly? However, there is one aspect we are still missing. When you choose a covenant, you don't just get an ability, or really two, you actually get so much more with your covenant that might impact your decision. When talking about certain covenant abilities, too often do people focus on the actual button that you get from your covenant, and too often do people forget about Soulbinds and Conduits altogether. If you do end up choosing to play Venthyr, there's actually quite a variety of different options you have, depending on the spec that you play from the different Soulbind options. Take Nagia for example. The very first ability is a pretty big haste buff that happens regularly. Haste can be good for all three specs. Not only does it mean more bleed ticks for Assassination, but also more auto attacks, which every spec can take advantage of. Plus, extra energy regen means extra sinister strikes, mutilates, backstabs, or shadow strikes. And you still have a very powerful bonus with Nagia in particular, Dauntless Duelist, which marks a target and you deal 3% flat damage to them, and they deal 1.5% less damage to you. The offensive benefit of this has been nerfed, but it's still really solid. Imagine doing just 3% more damage to a boss for the whole fight. Theater is still very, very strong with the Mastery buff from Soothe and Shade. Mastery becoming a little bit better for 3 specs, but very beneficial for your Subtlety as well as Assassination, as that probably has the most gain out of the Mastery rather than a percentage chance type of gain. You also have a very powerful bonus which can be used in a variety of situations. Wasteland Propriety, which gives versatility to you as well as your allies, and this can combine every time you use the ability of Flagellation, which can work out super well in terms of the playstyle of your character. This can be versatility to increase your damage in PvP, or maybe to survive certain mechanics in PvE. I mean, it's a very little amount of versatility, but still, it's a versatility buff for your full party, so definitely something you would want to use in groups. And even though General Draven is generally this tank type of Soulbind, Service in Stone can give quite a lot of versatility to your rogue, applying a damage and reduction if you're low on health, and even allowing you to kind of sacrifice yourself maybe in certain mechanics to kind of blast at your enemy using your health after turning into a statue. This in some cases can give rogues a very weird but an interesting play to it. And you also have other utilitarian things like superior tactics. Successfully interrupting an enemy or dispelling an ally, you'll most likely as a rogue be using the interrupt of this, will increase your critical strike chance by 10% for 10 seconds every 30 seconds. So in a fight with constant interrupts on a boss, you can just take advantage of 10% extra crit every now and again. And then there's other unique capabilities like Refined Palette for the Theater, where effective common potions can last longer, and certain potions can be extremely powerful, giving you a bigger burst window for your rogues. I feel like the Soulbinds for the Venthyr are pretty versatile in terms of some of the different bonuses they can offer you, and I feel like they could work for either 3 of the specs, with capability for PvP as well as PvE, in massive raid groups or in small dungeon groups. There's a lot of versatility to what the Venthyr Soulbinds can offer. We are still in beta, and it's still really difficult to gauge just how early is it too early to start recommending players which covenant to play. And this video isn't really a video to recommend you Venthyr, but rather to explain what Venthyr has been all about, since this has been the covenant that I spent the most time with. It's a choice that I made from the very beginning, and so far on the beta, this is how it felt to play so far. I feel like it's a playstyle that weaves into the playstyle for Assassination, and for Subtlety, and for Outlaw in a variety of different ways, and I think as you upgrade the Conduit for the ability of Flagellation, together combined with the versatility that the Soulbinds provide, I feel like it gives a rogue a variety of different ways to solve tasks, be it PvP, PvE, or raids in particular, while also maintaining this crimson flavor and flair that the Venthyr provide. Plus again, their mogs are insanely cool. But that's gonna be my video gushing on the Venthyr, because a lot of you guys have asked how it feels so far and if something that I could maybe recommend. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you in the next one.